Welcome to my channel. Every time new criminal case. Let's start. Today we will keep talking, and we'll show more, of Megan Boswell trial and the death of baby Evelyn. Who is the responsible for baby Evelyn's death? Her mom Megan Boswell? The foster house Megan Boswell used to stay in was pregnant at that time and age 16? Then gave birth to little baby Evelyn when she was just 17 years old? Which's child gave birth to child? Megan Boswell biological family? Or Megan Boswell friends who saw baby Evelyn dirty and in unhealthy condition and didn't report it? Do you think Megan Boswell's ex-boyfriend, baby Evelyn's father, who was at the army, or her current boyfriend who is mentally sick and staying at mental hospital? We may need to think also about the Child Protective Services. They knew there is a child gave birth to child and needed to follow up and watching after with that baby? I believe in this case, many people are responsible of the death of this beautiful little angel Evelyn Boswell.
Little baby Evelyn, a blue-eyed, blonde-haired bundle of absolute joy, was born in Tennessee. Her mom was Megan Boswell, a 17-year-old single mother. Evelyn and Megan lived on her family's compound with Evelyn's grandparents, Tommy and Angela, and Evelyn's uncle, Tommy Jr. At some point in December of 2019, Evelyn went missing, but no one reported her gone until February of 2020. It was her grandfather who called police, not her mother. When the investigation began, Megan's story allegedly changed and turned out to be false. She reportedly said Evelyn was with Grandma Angela and her grandma's boyfriend. Megan was arrested for providing false information. Then, Evelyn's body was found on the family compound in Megan's old playhouse. She was placed upside down in a trash can where she died. That trash can and all of its contents are crucial evidence in this case, and prosecutors believe Megan is the one who is responsible, and they have charged her with the murder of this little angel.
I just want to tell you about her favorite things and personality-wise. I know, looking on TV and just kind of seeing a picture, it's a lot harder to, envision a baby. Her favorite food is sweet potatoes. She's really sweet. She loves to give people kisses. Favorite song is Baby Shark. Just that kind of stuff.
Can you tell me, what's her favorite toy?
She has a little Baby Shark puppet.
What would y'all do together?
Well, she loves to take baths. That was her favorite thing, and she had little shark toys that swim in the bath and stuff like that.
How old is she now?
She's 15 months today, actually.
Oh, wow. Can you tell me a little bit, so you said she's very sweet. Is she sweet with everybody, or just...
She is. She loves everybody.
Can you tell me a little bit about, how you're feeling? Do you miss her? Are you worried?
Of course I miss her, and, I can't tell you anything about the ongoing investigation, but I'm sure you all have released an article about the car and stuff like that, so they have a pretty good idea of who has her. If they're watching, I just want them to bring her back.
Is there anything you'd like to say to them if they're watching?
I just want her back. That's my child.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I know this must be hard. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about her? Do you have any pictures of her? Have you been looking?
Not on me, no.
Not on you? Have you been looking at photos and stuff of her while you're... How are you coping with all of it?
I just want her back.
If you could tell her anything now, what would you say to her?
I love her and I miss her, that I'll be with her as soon as I can get to her any way I can.
Is there anything that you can tell us about, what kind of baby she is? I know you said that it's hard to see.
She's a happy baby. She hardly ever cries. She wants to wave and talk to everybody. She walks funny. She doesn't know how to pick her feet up, so she kind of wobbles.
Is she talkative?
She is. She giggles a lot. And you'll smile at her, she'll just start giggling. She's very happy.
Mm-hmm. And So you said she is talkative. It's full sentences. Like, what milestones has she met? Like, is she a smart little girl?
She is. She hit every milestone early. She's not. She can almost say "I love you." She's not fully got to sentences yet, but she does say a lot of words.
You must be so proud of her.
I am. When Baby Shark plays, she tries to like dance with them and sing it.
You said that's her favorite song. Do you do the puppet with her a lot? And I know all of this is very hard. Can you tell me, like, how you're feeling?
I just want her back. That's all I want.
Are you feeling worried or anything along those lines?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that at all?
Well, the reason I didn't report it or anything is because I knew the person who had her, and I didn't want them to run away with her. And as soon as they thought anything was going on, they just kind of vanished. So I'm just worried about, like where they're at, what they're doing with her at this point in time.
So you do know who has her? You do. Can you tell us who that is, or you don't?
I can't release anything further about that. I'm sure they will at the press conference, but further than that, I can't say anything.
And so you do know who has her. Are you worried about her safety?
Well, now I am, because they won't answer phone calls. They've just kind of disappeared.
And there you have it. Those were the biggest moments from Tuesday. What do you think of this case so far? Do you think Megan Boswell killed her baby? We know that her defense team is conceding some of it. We know they're conceding the disposal of the child, but they're not conceding the homicide. They're saying it was someone else who did it. What do you think? Let's talk about that with our legal analyst guest. I want to bring him in now. Attorney Randolph Rice on the program today. Randolph, good morning. Tell us your thoughts about this case and how you see the evidence so far, if you would, please.
Well, I think it's only getting worse for Megan Boswell. And yesterday's testimony of the forensic experts really probably put her a little bit deeper in the hole with the fingerprint analysis. You know, being able to find fingerprints on the aluminum foil as well as the trash can that was found there, that's really damning evidence against Megan Boswell. So that, coupled with all the other statements and the misstatements and the misleading the police and all the friends that try to reach out to her, it just seems to be getting worse for Megan Boswell at this point.
Right, Randolph. Tell me, when we think about her going to trial, you know, from having served as a prosecutor, many times there are plea negotiations in cases, and as you know from coming on court TV, we aren't privy to them. After the fact is typically when we hear about what was offered or what wasn't offered. Do you think that there could have been some kind of a reasonable resolution for this one, Randolph, to get justice for baby Evelyn and everyone who loved her, and also fairness to the defendant, Megan Boswell?
I certainly do. And a lot of times, though, what prosecutors do, and I'm actually going through a case right now just like this, where the prosecutors will set a range and let the judge decide. Now, the problem with that is that if you know the judge and you know the personality of the judge and the way the judge rules, the defense will often say, well, yeah, you gave us a range, and the low end may be something we can accept. But at the end of the day, we know the judge is going to go to the high end because of the gruesomeness of this murder. So that's the concern the defense often has with those types of ranges. You know, we don't have, like you said, we're not privy to the plea negotiations, so we don't know if there was an exact number or if there was a range, and the defense's worry of that high end of that range that she might get. And if the range is too high, that's ultimately why a lot of defendants go to trial, because they think, let me roll the dice, see what happens.
Exactly, Randolph. And that may be her logic here. Who knows? I like to speak practically, as you know, and kind of take our viewers behind the scenes and what are both sides doing prior to trial. You know, we see everybody enter the courtroom, but it kind of makes you wonder, was there any effort to negotiate this, especially when you hear the bad evidence coming out, like you pointed out? I mean, her fingerprints on the trash can, all of the lies that she told. I mean, it's just, this is a brutal case for so many reasons. Randolph, what do you think about the defense contesting the cause of death here? We know the medical examiner said this is a case of homicidal violence with baby Evelyn. The defense saying, nah, sudden infant death syndrome is what we think was at play. Do you think that could be plausible?
Yeah, that's something that the defense really pushed the forensic examiner or pathologist yesterday on, because they really wanted to paint them into a corner about, could this death have occurred before the baby was placed in the trash can? Or could this death have occurred before? Now, look, they've all agreed that it's death by or homicide by asphyxiation, But if the defense can lay groundwork or the possibility that this happened before baby Evelyn was placed in that trash can, that may place some doubt in the eyes of the jury to think, well, maybe somebody else, maybe Hunter Wood, was possibly involved here. So, you know, they're trying to lay that groundwork as to the time or when the death actually occurred. And you're right. I mean, they're trying to get it in as maybe that happened before she was placed in the trash can.
Right, right. Great points. Randolph Rice, so glad you're with us. Stand by, kindly, please. We're seeing a little bit of movement in the courtroom, but the jury's not in the box quite yet. So our camera has to be fixated right there.
I'm down at Mendota, you want to go check them out, but I've never been like specifically, hey, she's not your silver camper, because my mom did threaten me, like, you know, if I told anybody. I'm not going to get that, but she did.
So your mom has had Evelyn the whole time? Or the whole time?
Or the person that is in Mendota has had her the whole time.
So you believe that your mom took her to Mendota? Tell me why you let your mom take care of her? Did she take her from you that night? And
Well, she was just supposed to babysit her because I was going to work.
And then when did you know that something was wrong?
Well, whenever, like, she picked me up Wednesday, and I told her, like, hey, they're doing a press release about the ambulance thing, and then she freaked out, and that's why they couldn't find her. Like, nobody talked to her for days until they arrested her. She just kind of poof, gone. But she kept trying to take me to Mendota, and I kept asking, I was like, are you taking me to Evelyn? And she would never tell me yes or no. And I was like, well, if you're not, I'm just calling somebody at the police station to come and get me, like, I'm not playing these games with you.
And so tell me, the day that you dropped her off with your mom to let her babysit,
That's what she said.
tell me was there anything off about your mom that day? Did you have any, suspicion that she was going to take your child?
No.
All right, what do you think of Megan Boswell's interview there? That wasn't the only one she did. And I want to shout out all of you wonderful courties at home. During opening statements, my producers and I weren't sure who was next to Megan in that interview. Apparently, it's the mother of one of her friends. So thank you to all of you who answered that question for us. We really appreciate it. She should have had a lawyer there. Too late for that now, and smart move by these prosecutors introducing this as case evidence. Remember, a little legal lesson. Anytime a defendant makes statements, they're coming in. We call them admissions by a party opponent or statements by a party opponent. Remember, because it's the state of Tennessee versus that party. In this case, defendant Megan Boswell. So anything she says prior to trial to anyone, camera or no camera, can come in and be used against her. It's a wonderful tool that prosecutors have, and kudos to them not missing an opportunity, because we've seen other trials here on Court TV where prosecutors aren't always that savvy to go and get that media and then introduce it for the jury. So bravo to these prosecutors here for doing that. Let me bring in former prosecutor, now he's an attorney in the private sector, Randolph Rice, for some analysis. Okay, Randolph, you had to be cringing watching her answer all of that. Your thoughts, please.
I just can't make sense of it. I mean, she's all over the place. 1 minute that she went to lunch with her mother, and then took the baby, Evelyn, for a babysitting job, and then the mother dropped the baby off at a silver trailer in Mendota, and it's a person, but she doesn't know the name of the person, but then she says her mom offered her to take her to the... It just... This circular logic and the constant lies, I mean, it's just, this is what's going to sink her, because she just can't, I hate to say it, keep her story straight, because she's lying. You know, when you're lying, you have no frame of reference to say, this is what happened. So she's just constantly making stuff up, very generalized, might I note, that because it's not like, oh, here's the address, here's the name of the person. It's just very vague information. And this is what just makes no sense, and why she's so hard to believe.
Right, Randolph. Pants on fire, Megan Boswell. That is for sure. This is a live picture of her. That was her walking in just a second ago. So we're live right now with our video camera. Wearing the glasses, so she looks a bit different. Her hair is much longer. She's wearing the glasses. Looks a bit more mature, and this is several years later, right? I mean, when we think about when she gave those interviews, we're going back to the year 2020. And now, so fast forward 5 years later, here she is at trial looking a bit different, but the circumstance is still tragically the same, with baby Evelyn gone. She has not forgotten, though. There's the judge taking the bench getting ready to call for the jury in a moment, I presume. So let's do this. Let's call for our break so we don't miss the start of the testimony. We're going to step aside, take that break, go refill your coffee. We'll be back live with the trial after this.
Ms. Boswell, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Stock.
Megan, I want to ask you some questions about my representation as you and explain to you your right to testify.
Okay.
I've been representing you for a couple of years now. We've met and discussed your case. You need to answer out loud.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And part of that I've talked to you about, you have the right to testify, is that right?
Yes.
And if the jury can't hold it against you if you don't testify, do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand you have a right not to testify?
Yes.
Okay. And if you decided you wanted to testify, I couldn't stop you from that. Judge Goodwin couldn't stop you. Mr. Harper couldn't. That's solely your decision. You understand that?
Yes.
And after consulting with me and looking at the evidence and hearing the proof here in court, have you made a decision as whether or not you want to testify?
Yes, I have.
Do you want to testify?
No.
I think I covered it, Judge. Approach.
Yes.
She is not testifying. What do you think of that move by Megan Boswell? Hit us up on social media. Let us know. I'm enjoying seeing all of your tweets this morning. Let me bring in our legal analyst guest, attorney Randolph Rice, and get his thoughts. Randolph, what do you think about Ms. Megan's decision there?
I think it's a smart decision. I think she gets on that stand and she just can't keep all of her stories straight. And the prosecution's going to lay one story after another story about what she told the detectives and the TV stations. And she's not going to have an explanation as to what she said those days 4 years ago. So I think it's smart that she's not taking the stand. At this point now, it's the question of what the defense's move is going to be. Are they going to bring in forensic pathologists to challenge time of death or how that baby died? Or are they going to rest and leave it out of the jury's hand?
You read my mind, Randolph. You're right. You raised the million-dollar question. Are they going to present a case? What's that like when you have that opportunity to either just make the Commonwealth or the state meet their burden, or to say, you know what, we want to take it a step further and show the jury something?
Yeah, I think they've pulled the thread a little bit, and actually I kind of noticed it in Judge Goodwin's rulings on the motion for judgment of acquittal. If you noticed, he paused a little bit when he was thinking about when the baby died. Did the baby die from a medical reason or SIDS? Or did the baby die when she was placed in that trash can wrapped in the aluminum foil in the blanket? And so I'm wondering, does the defense think to themselves, you know what, we might have pulled this thread. It might be resonating with the jury. We need to now bring our own forensic pathologist in that's going to say, we can't determine when baby Evelyn died, and therefore that provides that doubt that Megan didn't kill her.
Right. A great analysis, Randolph. They were so smart to zero in on that issue of the cause and manner of death, calling it into question. And you're right, the judge gave a very thoughtful, well-reasoned answer. But as we know, this is a different standard at this juncture than the jury is going to have to be meeting if they would find her guilty of these crimes. So here's what we'll do. We'll take our break now.
Today's verdict captured the attention of people all across our region and beyond.
Yeah, it only took the jurors 4.5 hours to come to the conclusion that Megan Boswell was guilty on all 19 of those charges. Now, there was a heavy focus on the murder charges. However, the evidence for all 19 played a factor in the jury coming to this decision. For more than a week, the jurors sat and listened to testimony, saw hundreds of pieces of evidence, and watched hours of police interview. This was all while they were sequestered from their friends, families, and loved ones. Prosecutors say that this common sense, though, is what led jurors to the verdict.
We're obviously pleased with the decision that the jury made. It's been 5 long years since all of this first started, and you know, it's a lot of hard work by a lot of people. So it was very satisfying to get the jury's verdict.
Now, after the trial, prosecutors say that this case was emotional for everyone involved, but winning it means one thing, and that's justice for Evelyn. But, Jeff, there are some folks that say justice was not served today.
Yeah, well, Megan Boswell's attorney sounded like a man who did not think he delivered a weak case for her acquittal when we talked to him outside of the courtroom this afternoon. Gene Scott said several times in the courtroom that it was the prosecution that has the burden of proving something, and in a case that featured what even prosecutors admitted was a lot of circumstantial evidence, Scott said he left closing statements expecting a different verdict on the murder charges than the one that arrived this morning.
I was surprised and I'm disappointed in it. I personally don't agree with the verdict. I respect the jury's prerogative, but I don't feel like the state was able to prove those homicide counts beyond a reasonable doubt. But reasonable people can differ, I guess, and I'll pursue an appeal.
Scott repeated what he'd argued in the courtroom when it came to that doubt, that he believes testimony from two different medical examiners simply didn't do enough to shed solid light on how Evelyn Boswell died. Jurors clearly saw that testimony differently from both doctors, and they thought it was sufficient to prove that Megan did kill her daughter, Evelyn.
Again, there were, a lot of back and forth about the medical examiners, about whether or not Megan was the sole actor in all of this. But again, the jury saw through all that and they said, you know what, she's guilty. We find her guilty on this. And we also thought they were going to deliberate a lot longer than what they did, but 4.5 hours after, almost a week and a half in court.
Yeah, a tremendous amount of evidence, interviews. They had to listen to hours of interviews. So the speed with which that verdict came back was perhaps a little surprising and certainly seemed indicative of them probably having felt like it was pretty clear and convincing evidence that she was guilty on all of those counts.
All right, well, Jeff Keeling and Ansley Daniel out here in Blunteville. We'll go ahead and send things back to you in the studio.
I'm Casey Marler. Today's decision by the jury was the culmination of a case nearly 5 years in the making. The trial surrounded the disappearance and death of 15-month-old Evelyn Boswell. She was the subject of an Amber Alert in February of 2020. A few weeks later, she was found dead on a family member's property.
Her mother, Megan Boswell, was the only person facing charges in her death. A jury found her guilty on all 19 counts.
Some of the heavier charges she was found guilty of include first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree murder in the perpetration of aggravated child abuse, and first-degree murder in the perpetration of aggravated child neglect. A jury decided on a sentence of life in prison with the possibility of parole.
All right. Miss Boswell, in count one, the jury of your peers having set your punishment, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. In count two, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. In count three, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. We'll have to set this for sentencing hearing where we'll deal with merger, other issues, as well as sentencing in counts 4 through 20. Does she waive the 45 days, Mr. Scott?
She does.
The jury deliberated Megan Boswell's sentence on the murder charges. After a few hours, jurors returned at 2 p.m. Thursday and decided Boswell should serve life in prison. The judge set the formal sentencing hearing for May 22, where he will sentence Boswell on the 16 other charges and determine how her sentence will be served. Jury found Megan Boswell guilty on all 19 charges against her in the murder of her 1-year-old daughter, Evelyn Boswell. Megan Boswell was found guilty of murdering Evelyn and trying to cover up her death. Boswell was found guilty of the following charges: first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree murder in the perpetration of aggravated child abuse, first-degree murder in the perpetration of aggravated child neglect, aggravated child abuse, aggravated child neglect, tampering with evidence, 11 counts of false report, abuse of a corpse, failure to report a death under suspicious, unusual, or unnatural circumstances. A sentencing hearing was scheduled for May 22, where the judge will sentence Boswell on her other charges and determine how her sentence will be served. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you do, then please subscribe and like. You may also share it with family and friends. Please let me know, what do you think about this case? Is it fair judgment? Write your opinion in comment. I leave you in peace. Take care of yourself and your kids, please.